Hello, and welcome to another Tech Articles. In today's article, I want to talk about web forms, and specifically the testing of web forms. It's something that we should all know we should do. We have these web forms on our websites, and we never test them. We hope that they continue to work. We get the occasional email delivery. We might log in and check that those emails are being delivered, but physically testing them is not something that we do. I've noticed that recently there's been a whole plethora of services available to test web forms, specifically designed for that purpose. It's something I've been doing for a little while, and I've been using one method to do it, which is what I'm going to show you today. And for another video that will come out in a day or so, I am going to use a new method that I'm testing as well, and show you how I built that and why I built that, etc. So I have a test site here with a form on it, and I'm actually going to use the same test site for both videos. This is irrelevant, but this is a Sureform form, and I've picked Sureform because it's one of the newest forms, and it's actually one I haven't automated before. And it's just a basic cadence site with a form dumped in it, and it's the form that we're worried about in this case. And the way that I've been testing them is using a Python library called Selenium. And here's a little bit about that and how you install it. And actually, pip is brilliant for installing stuff, and pip is how I installed my Selenium on my computer. Now, obviously, you need Python on your path, you need Selenium on your path, and you need the Chrome WebDriver on your path for this to work. That is all the case for me in terms of my Windows machine. This machine is set up to do it. It already does do it. I run about 10, 12 tests every few days, automated via a Windows service to trigger a batch file to test the forms. And I've even got filters in my email accounts to automatically filter those emails away, so I never see them except for when they come in. So I'll get a notification that they've come in, and then they'll be filtered away. I don't have to delete them from my email box. And the reason that you test a form is to make sure it's being submitted. And Selenium is a web-based agent, really. It allows you to control websites without physically doing the work. So, as I said, this is our form here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the code that runs this, the Python that runs this test. And it's actually not as complicated as it looks. So here I have a instance of Sublime Text. And I've imported Selenium and the WebDriver and all of the bits and pieces needed here, including the time. I then use the driver. This is the code. This is a site that we're going to deliver to. Now I've added an extra sleep here. This extra 10 isn't needed, but I need that time to grab the browser when it pops up into my main window and drag it to this window so that you can see it. So I've slowed this down intentionally. And now these are our form fields and what we're putting in them. And I'm just going to show you how I got those fields. Now, there is two ways to do this, or there's more than two ways of doing this, but there's two ways I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to drag that code off and open it over here. And the way I do it is I use this called Hoverify, and I just inspect our inputs like so, and it gives me the details that we want. So if I was to now copy this, I would have the details I need, and that's how I get my field details. Now, how else you can do it is if we inspect the page and then we do this, you'll get the same information here. So you see this is the field name, and in this case we actually want the ID, but it doesn't matter. The field name, and if I pull this back over to half a screen, and this, hopefully you'll be able to see this. So we are looking for TSZQ, and you'll see that is exactly the same as what we have here in our ID. And this is how we build up our form. So we're telling it in this input field that we want it to type this. And the same with the email. So if we scroll down and look at the email block, you'll see here that we get to our div, and you can see here it's got a reference of RW1HAWW, and we've just put that here. Now, this is how simple it is. You go through and you tell it what elements it needs to find and what it needs to enter into those elements. Where it gets a little bit complicated is drop downs. And actually, I find in Selenium, it's actually really quite easy. You have to tell it it's a drop down, do a click, wait, and then select the object that you want. So in this case, it's this one here. It clicks on, it waits till it loads, and then it selects this one. And the same with the submit button, really. So if we take this a little bit smaller and grab this down to the submit button, and you'll see we've got a wrap submit button here, and we can find our submit button. There it is, ID, and we've put that ID into this function, and that is how simple it is. And you could actually use this for no matter how many fields you've got. In this case, it's just this. So this 50 lines of code is perfectly capable of testing this web form. And as I say, I automate this not for this particular web form, but my own web forms using a batch script. And actually, I'm going to use that batch script to launch this one, because what it does is it launches all the Python files within a folder. And this one is in a folder by itself with that batch script. And I've got a Windows service that runs every few days. I think it's every 72 hours. And it will just run that script for me, and it runs it. It takes over the computer. Now, it's not this computer it takes over. I have a media server that I use, and it runs on there. It doesn't interfere with the use of that server. I barely touch that server. It's all self-sufficient, and it's just a Windows device that I have running to do this. As I say, this is all in my home, so my IP address is registered by Cloudflare, which means I don't get caught by Cloudflare or any of that sort of stuff. My home IP is allowed through my Cloudflare instances. But of course, you could use a VPS, a Windows VPS, or even a Linux VPS in a data center. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this through a test. So this is our code, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this command prompt that I've got here. Hopefully it's on the screen. It is, and I'm in the test form folder, and I'm just going to push up to get to our bat file. And this is the same bat file that I run for all of my other ones. I've just put it in here, and what it does is it circles this file, finds all the py files, which are Python files, and it runs them one at a time. So I'm going to push enter. And then it's going to pop up a window on my other computer, and I'm going to other screen, and I'm going to grab that and pull that here so that you can see. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to scroll down. I'm not in control of this. This is all automated. You'll start to see that it does things in a second of its own accord. It's going to wait about 10 more seconds, and then it'll start. And it's pretty fast once it starts. And that's it. It's submitted the form. And that's it, done its test now. So if we go back to our command prompt, it's now telling us that it's done that. It's run. It's waiting for 2 seconds. It's telling us that all scripts have been completed. If I push enter, it will come out. So now if I close this command prompt down and head over to our emails, you'll see we've got a form submitted from our contact form, and it contains the details that we just saw. It automatically enter and matches the details we have here. Now, this is one website with one form. You can't use the same. Every form is different. Every form has different IDs. Every form has different submit buttons. Every form type has a different way that it labels its ID. The trick is to, as I showed you earlier on in the video, is to identify your field. Now, I prefer to use Hoverify, but inspection is just as efficient, and sometimes more so. I mean, it makes it a lot easier to see what you're getting in terms of where you are in the code. And actually, I haven't tried, but given that the code is relatively standard, you could probably grab this, give some instructions to something like ChatGPT, and it would pump you out a reasonably close version of this straight away. And that's how I test one site. And all I would do in my case here, if I wanted to test more, was I would just open this file, dump some more Python files, py files in here for the different sites, and map them to their fields so that they all run one after the other. As you saw, it's really quite quick. It could probably do 10, 15 sites in a matter of minutes, even seconds apiece. And I choose, as I say, I choose to do them in batches. I would choose to do them in batches rather than all at once. I do about 15 sites at once. That's how many sites I have. I don't do any more than that. But if you were doing a few hundred, you don't want to time out your web server or your web server's protection. Obviously, if your IP is allowed or your VPS's IP is allowed through your firewalls, etc., it's not going to cause you a problem. But for those of you that don't host all your own sites, it will probably be easier to batch them and use either a home IP proxy service or something like that to do this. But in terms of general form filling, this is one of the easiest ways I found. And even though I'm going to do a video, which will either be the video before this or the video after, I haven't decided which way I'm going to release them yet. One, even though I found a new way, and that new way is even easier to automate and doesn't require your own computer, which is why I'm going to show you how to do it. It's all done in the cloud. I still will keep some of my sites being tested this way, particularly the ones that are done often, because this is essentially free. You pay for the electricity of the machine, and that's it. And as I say, once you've written your files, once you've written your actual Python file, it runs on autopilot. And while I remember, I'm going to remove this. I will put a write-up on this example on tech articles for you so that you can grab this code and modify it for yourself. But this code will only work for this form. Your form will not be the same. It will not have the same element IDs. It will not have the same form fields. You have to build it for your form. And as I said, that's relatively easy to do. There is quite a lot of documentation on Selenium and the Chrome web browser, web driver as well. But yeah, it's not too difficult to modify. And once you've done a few, you'll get much quicker at modifying them. And once you've got down to finding the elements, the rest is relatively simple. Well, I hope this video has been useful. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, thanks for watching.